Well, I've got some new ball turning tooling to show you this evening that I've made. I've made a second op ball turning fixture out of plumbing parts, and I'd like to show you how to make that in a minute. And I've done some upgrades to the Repton ball turning attachment and the Myford ball turning attachment that you get from RDG. So I've been using the Repton ball turning attachment for a while now, and I showed you how to set it up in one of my last videos. I found that after using it, particularly with the screwed mandrels for turning the balls that I showed, the edge of the original carbide tip holder gets damaged around the diameter there. And this is only made of soft aluminium, which has been black anodized, so it's not very good for the purpose of holding a carbide tip. So what I've done is I've made a new carbide insert holder out of 01 tool steel. I've made it slightly smaller than the original one, and I think it's about 1/2 inch, so it's very strong. And also, being hardened, it doesn't get damaged when it touches the mild steel mandrels. So that's a good upgrade to do on this Repton, and they're very easy to make. I bought another ball turning attachment for the Myford lathe. I bought this one on eBay. It's a used one, and I got it for half the price. And this is the one sold by RDG. Now I found when I came to use it on large diameter work, that when I came to set the central part here, the radius here would actually clash with the end of the bar, and I was unable to set it correctly. And also the tip was slightly under the centre line. So rather than alter the part here, I made a new part like that, and this one is much more versatile, can cut larger diameter radiuses, and I'll be showing another video later on how I made this tool and how well this ball turning attachment performs with it. So you can make great fixtures out of plumbing components. You can get second-hand ones from the scrapyards, you can get them on eBay, or you can even buy new ones. And this one here is basically to hold the ball when it comes off the mandrel. It goes in there like that, the front screws on tightly and traps the ball in there, and then you have the ability to do all other operations that you would like to do to the ball. So you could either drill and do another thread in there, and you could just limit yourself to one mandrel, and then you could rethread it for whatever you're going to fit the ball on. Or you can bore right the way through for making ball valves, or you can even make full radius balls by first turning on a mandrel or just straight from bar, put it in the second op fixture, and using the ball turning attachment to finish the other end. And there you have a nice solid brass ball with no hole. So it actually saves marking or damaging the radius of the ball, and you can also use it to put a finished ball in and buffing on the buffing wheel, and then you move it round a bit until you've completed the whole ball, like that one there, and get a nice mirror finish on it. So this ball here I've turned is 31mm in diameter, and to make a fixture to hold a ball that size you need a brass plumbing coupling which is 28mm. And if you buy a T-shaped one like this, you have 3 different ends which you can use for various fixtures and adapters. So firstly, you put this one in the vise like this and saw down at an angle like that down to there, and then put it in the vise again and saw down here so that you saw one end off like that. And remember, this would be a rough sawn edge. So then you put the sawn off end on the mini lathe. Now if you have a 4-inch chuck like this one, this is the original chuck that came on the Chinese lathe, you find the tops or the outside parts of the hard jaws are quite rounded. And instead of holding on the thread and damaging it, you can put the component onto the jaws, or the jaws inside the component, and open the jaws out to hold the component like that. And then you just face off and then just use a tool like that to remove the sharp edge. You can leave the bore the size that it is, and you'll find that the modern couplings run true, the bore runs true to the thread. So then I got a piece of 32mm mild steel and faced off both ends and turned the diameter, and then I measured the bore with a vernier and turned the diameter about 6mm deep, so that that one goes on there a nice push fit, and put a little groove in there for the Loctite, and also slightly undercut the corner there with the turning tool. And then I drilled through various size drills until I got up to 1/2 inch diameter, and then that one will go on there like that with the Loctite. And you can see that I've bored out the back there with a bit of an angle, just enough clearance so that when the ball drops in there it's not hitting on the back face. So it looks like that, and that angle there was already on the component, and that will be alright for the ball to sit on. So I used Loctite 638, which is a high strength retaining compound, filled the groove, covered the diameter and pushed the coupling end on there like that and let it set. It sets rock solid in a few minutes, but you can make it go quicker if you want to by just warming it up slightly, and you'll find that you won't be able to get that component off of there again unless you actually heated it up very hot. So it's a very high strength retaining compound and ideal for this type of work. So next you get the ball, drop it into the fixture and try the nut on the end, and you'll find that it most probably won't screw down far enough. It'll just be a couple of threads, and you need at least 3 thread turns. So the nut needs a very slight alteration to the angle in there, that thickness is thinned a bit and allows the nut to screw on further. So to do that, you put the fixture in the lathe and tighten it in the chuck and check that it's running true. And then I use a tool like this one here, which has got a nice angle on the back there, and then I can use this one to bore out the angle of the nut from inside. So that one goes on the tool post like that. And then, so I know that I'm not going to touch this face here or cut any of that off, I set it on the front face, touch on the front face, and put a stop on the carriage. Then screw the nut on the end, and there is enough gap to get the tool inside. So then wind the tool into the stop, and wind it out on the diameter until you hear it touch. Maybe just a little bit more, and then wind the tool back on the carriage. And just skim off the back of the angle and thin that wall thickness. And that one is done. And you can see it's cut that angle a bit more, taking it in a bit, and the nut will screw further onto the fixture with the ball in it. And then you can see that it screws nearly all the way on now. Incidentally, you can take that bore out a little bit. I have on that one, so more of the ball diameter sticks out, but you can see that it's holding that ball captive in the fixture, ready for machining on this end. So when you come to use the fixture, put it in the chuck and clock it in, clock there on the angle and get it running as true as possible. And then I use my mandrel that I made, that I did the op1 ball turning on, and this has got an 8mm thread and a center drill in that end, and you can use this one. You screw it into the ball like that, and then you put the nut over the end like that, and just lightly nip the nut up, and then use the tailstock with a live centre and put it into the centre drill hole, lock the tailstock up, and then tighten the coupling nut up with a large adjustable spanner, and then withdraw the tailstock and you'll find that it runs fairly true. And that's the easiest way to true the ball in the fixture. And now I'll give a quick demonstration of one of the many uses that you can use this ball turning fixture for. I'm going to drill right the way through the ball and then bore a 1/2 inch diameter bore right the way through. So to make sure it's tight enough for drilling, I put a spanner or a adjustable spanner on one of the jaws and just tighten that one up a bit. And just use a small boring bar. And that's the 1/2 inch bore finished. And if you want to, you can blend the end in like that. And there you have the ball with the 1/2 inch diameter right the way through, and you can use it for all different things. And obviously using the fixture like that won't damage the radius of the ball. And then you can use the fixture again and turn the ball around, put it in, lock it up, true it up, and just deburr the other end, and then you have a perfect spherical diameter from bore to bore. So the plumbing fittings make really good fixtures. I've used them for many different things, and obviously cheap to make because you don't have to bore out solid bar, and also you don't have to mess about cutting threads.